Hey, it's Rachel with Shades of Blue Interiors, and today I'm going to paint my piano, and I thought I'd show you guys my favorite tools and materials to use when painting a piano. So first of all, you want to make sure that your piano is clean from dust, debris, and any kind of residue that will prevent the paint from adhering properly. So you're going to want to do this. You can use a gentle cleaner, some damp paper towels. You can use a deglosser, like a chemical deglosser, to get any kind of like lacquered residue, weird stuff. Just wipe it down thoroughly so that the paint will adhere better. Then you're also going to want a sanding block, and whether it is for a pre-painted surface or just the original lacquered wood finish, you want to rough up the entire piano a little bit with the sanding block just to give some tooth to the finish. Then you're also going to want some painter's tape, and this is just to tape off around the hinges, the keys and things like that. So any areas that you don't want painted, you can use the painter's tape for. You're also going to want a high quality paintbrush. This is a 2-inch Worcester Pro, and I like it because it has tons of bristles and they're really soft, and it just shows brush strokes less, I've noticed. It just has a very nice, and it keeps a little bit more of the paint in the brush, so I have to go back and dip less times. So higher quality paintbrush makes a difference. And then you're going to want some drop cloth paper strips to cover the keys. And then you want a good quality paint. So let me talk a minute about what type of paint is best when painting your piano. You want it to have really great coverage. So something that is like a paint and primer in one, that has like the consistency of like sour cream. I always find like the higher quality paints have that, and it is wonderful when you don't have to do like 3 or 4 coats. Ideally you want to do one really good coat and then go back and maybe do a bit of a second coat. You also want something that is going to level really well. And then also you want something that is durable. So those 3 qualities are the most important when painting a piano or really any piece of furniture, and they're most often found in more expensive paints. Another quality is that those nicer, higher quality paints, they have more pigments in the paint, so that helps with coverage and the color payoff. And actually they fade less or not at all over the years, and so you're just making an investment into something, all the hard work that you're going to put into painting your piano is just going to last longer, and you're going to be happy with it longer. So a good quality paint won't matter too much the sheen on it for the durability. Generally speaking, semi-gloss is more durable than like a matte finish, and so if you have a piece that is used a ton, definitely opt more for a higher sheen, something a little bit shinier. So I'm actually choosing a matte paint today, and it's the Behr Marquee line, and the color is Graphic Charcoal. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll just show me kind of doing all the steps that I just talked about, using all the materials that I just went through. I'll show you guys my technique for painting furniture that makes it so I can paint really fast and very evenly. And I dip in my paintbrush about a third of the way in with paint, and then I work in motions like this. Back and forth in kind of circular areas. And this is any flat surface, like that. And then I go back and smooth out the brush strokes. And the reason why I do this is because when you first dip in the paint and you go like this, you get the most paint deposited there. And then you're stuck trying to like smooth that out. If you only work in long strokes, it takes longer to get even coverage over the surface than if you just dab it and then you work back and forth in little areas. And then you go back over real lightly and smooth over your brush strokes. And then you don't even have to worry about brush strokes if you're using a high quality paint that levels nicely and a good paintbrush, because it distributes the paint nice and evenly. And then you just gently smooth it over. When doing around areas like the feet or hinges, I don't bother taping around them because I find those areas to be really time consuming to tape. I just go nice and slow around any area that I'm gonna be needing to be careful. So I just go nice and slow, and it ends up, if I get a little bit on there and have to wipe it off, it's faster than if I were to try to tape this whole deal. See, I did it without using any tape, and I didn't even get any on my very old kind of rusty petals or the felt that's around the petals. Here's another example of something that I don't tape. Top part of these hinges, what is most visible when the piano is closed, I just cut in like I would, you know, along a ceiling line or anything. I just go a few inches and then I pull out, and go a few inches and pull out with the brush. And then you can go back Okay, it's a new day. I have let the first coat dry completely, and I'm ready to go in and do any areas that look like they need a second coat, and kind of the more detailed areas around the keys, and I'll show that in just a minute. Okay, as you can see, this is an area that I've already worked on, and this is what I haven't worked on. This is what the color, the light gray color, is what it was previously. And this area behind the keys I've already painted, and this area I haven't. So what I do is I dip my paint in just a small amount. So what I'm gonna do is, much like I would, like if I was cutting in, like how I did around the hinge, or if I was doing baseboard, it's the same idea. So I'm gonna push a couple petals or of the keys down, and I'm going to just, at a slight angle, move behind those keys. And I'm gonna just do a few keys at a time, so that really only like one thin layer of the brush bristles are going behind this key. So it's not getting on the keys, it's just slipping in this space right behind. Even with the tape here, I want to make sure and not put too much paint that might go down that crack, because this is really just preventing me from having any brush strokes on the keys, but I don't want to have paint slip down in there because that'll be hard to remove and that'll prevent the keys from playing smoothly. And that's how I paint around the keys. And even before it's completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and remove the paint or the painter's tape, because I don't want the paint that's stuck to the painter's tape to dry with the paint that's on the piano. So this side of the piano is an area that's commonly overlooked in paint. As you can kind of see, it drips down and gets a little bit thicker, and it can interfere with how smoothly this lid closes. So you want to make sure and sand down any areas that are too thick. Because you want to make sure it closes smoothly. And then you wipe the dust away. Just a very small amount of paint on the brush. And you're just putting a very thin coat on this edge because you don't want to build up a bunch of paint here and interfere with how smoothly it closes. So the piano's done and the coverage is beautiful. I love the finish on it. Again, this is a matte finish that I used, and I'm going to be gentle with it for a few weeks until the paint is fully cured. But essentially, as soon as it's dried, it's ready for use. So obviously you saw that I did sand it some, and I explained earlier that it's very important to, whether it's pre-painted or if it's a wood surface, that you sand a little bit after cleaning it really good, just to give the surface some tooth, something for the paint to adhere to. So I did sand some, but I didn't strip the surface completely. I didn't use a primer because my piano was pre-painted. I had originally painted it with chalk paint, and the chalk paint adhered really well without any kind of primer. So I didn't need to use a primer since it was already painted with chalk paint. If you're painting a piano that is not pre-painted, that just has a regular a wood stain finish, then I think using a primer is never a bad idea. You're just going to get better adhesion. However, with the higher quality paints that have like a paint and primer in one, like what I used, the Behr Marquee, I don't think it's necessary. You can just, because the primer is built in, you can just use that right on top of the wood finish. The last question I'm going to answer that I received was, does the paint affect the piano sound? And the answer is no, it does not. We have had this piano painted for a few years, and we've had it tuned, and it still plays beautifully, and we haven't noticed any difference on how the sound carries. So no need to worry.